In this video, we are going to learn how to write equations from tables and graphs. Let's begin. So in slope-intercept form, we need two pieces of information in order to write the equation of a linear function. We need the slope, also represented by the letter m. We also need the y-intercept, which is where the line touches the y-intercept. Y-intercept is represented by the letter b. Once we have these two values, we will write equations in the form of y equals mx plus b. Now, m is a slope and b is the y-intercept. So those are the two things that you're going to replace. You're going to have y equals something x in every equation in slope-intercept form. But the m is going to be whatever your slope is, and your b is going to be your y-intercept. So let's say, just give an example, let's say you had a slope of 4 and you had a y-intercept of like 5. Your equation should be then written as y equals slope, which is 4, x plus 5. Or if you had a slope of like 2 and a y-intercept of -3, your equation would be y equals 4x plus -3 plus -3, or just -3, which is the same thing. All right, let's look at tables. How can we write an equation from a table? From a table, we can find the slope by calculating y2 using the slope formula. Basically, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's the change in y, or the difference of y over the difference in x. Change in x. Look for the y-intercept as the value look for the y-intercept as the value of y when x is equal to 0. So if you're given a table, let's say you've got a table of values. This is x and this is y, whatever each one happens to represent. And it says -2 is 5, -1 is 7, 0 is 9, and 1 is 11, and 2 is 13. What is the y-intercept here? Well, the y-intercept is kind of like, if you want to think of it as a starting point, it's where x is 0. That's where, you had a graph. The y-intercept would be like where x is 0, which is the y-axis. So basically, our y-intercept, our b, is that number right there. It's 0, 9, or just the 9 from that. So it's the y value. All right. From a graph, if you're given a graph, how do you write an equation? From a graph, we can find the slope by setting up a ratio of rise over run. Figure out the rise over the run and simplify that ratio. And then you look for the y-intercept as the point where the graph crosses the y-axis. So let's say I've got this coordinate plane and I've got some line running through it. Yeah, let's give it another one. Line running through it. Which one is my y-intercept? Well, it's this point right there. It's the point that touches the y-axis, okay? It is not. It's not that point. That's the x-intercept, which is not important for us at all. All right, let's take a look. Let's practice writing some equations from tables and graphs in the following real-world situations. We have Luke's family going to the movies, and they purchase a large popcorn. They are debating whether or not to purchase any drinks. The table below shows how much they'll spend based on the number of drinks they decide to purchase. So here's our slope, here's our x term, or x values, and here's our y values. Because in a table, the x always goes first and the y always goes afterward. That's the independent, and that is the dependent. So what is our number of drinks? Well, our number of drinks starts off as 0, so the cost is $6.25. And you may be thinking, like, wait, 0 drinks is $6.25? No, not quite. It's because they purchased a large popcorn first. So that's probably the cost of the popcorn, I'm assuming. If they purchase 1 drink, then they're going to have to pay a total of $10. So the popcorn plus the drink. 2 drinks is $13.75. 3 drinks, 4 drinks. So what is my slope? Well, let's figure out the change in y over the change in x. Let's go from here. From 625 to 10, basically I just subtract the difference, 10 minus 6.25. That is 3.75. That's basically y2 minus y1, right? That's how I figure out the change, y2 minus y1. All right, x2 minus x1. That is a change of 1. 1. So it looks like the rate of change is 3.75. So 3.75 over 1, or just 3.75. I don't need the dollar sign. What is the y-intercept? Well, what is the y value when x is 0? That's right here. That is 625. Write an equation. Well, I have the slope. I have the y-intercept, so it's y equals m, which is 3.75, x plus 6.25. What does the slope represent in this situation? Well, the slope was the total costs compared with the number of drinks. So it's the costs per drinks. So it's this per that, y per x, so cost per drinks. What does the y-intercept represent in this situation? Well, the y-intercept was the initial cost, or cost prior to the drinks, or in this case, it was the cost of the popcorn. But it's the cost at the beginning. Why is there a $6.25 cost at the beginning, even though you have 0 drinks? Remember, it's because you bought the popcorn. So that's what the $6.25 represents. All right, let's take a look at the next one. We've got Betty's Bakery uses a chocolate cookie recipe that calls for a certain ratio of brown sugar to butter as shown in the graph. So for every cup of butter, she requires a certain amount of brown sugar. What is my slope? I need to figure that out by looking for rise over run. Oh, look at that. They give me 2 points to use already. My rise is like that. My run is like that. So I rise 1, 2, 3. Let's make sure that's actually a 3. So it goes from 3 to 6. Yeah, that's 3. And my run is from here to here. That looks like 4 plus 4. And let's make sure that goes from 4 to 8. Yeah, 4 to 8 is 4. So my slope, my rise over run is 3. Oops. 3 over 4. So slope is 3 over 4. What is my y-intercept, or my b? My y-intercept is right there. It's actually 0, 0. So my y-intercept is 0. Write the equation. Y equals 3 slope, which is 3/4 x plus 0. Now, I don't need to write plus 0 because 3/4 x plus 0 is just 3/4 x. What does the slope represent in this situation? It is the y over the x, so the change in the brown sugar. It's brown sugar. It's the amount of brown sugar per cup of butter. So if my slope is 3/4, that means 3 cups of brown sugar over 4 cups of butter, per every 4 cups of butter. What does the y-intercept represent in this situation? Well, it means it's the starting point, so it's 0 sugar for 0 butter. Yeah, you don't use any sugar if you don't use butter. Let's take a look at number 3. A plane uses a certain amount of fuel based on the number of miles it travels, as shown in the table. So, miles traveled is 0, 30, 60, 90, 120. What is the slope? Again, change in y over change in x. So this is the x, and this is the y. The gallons of fuel, it's constant. So this is a change of plus 156. The change in x is plus 30. So 156 over 30 is our slope. Can I simplify it? I'm just going to divide it, and I got 5.2, which is fine. What is the y-intercept? It's when x is 0. What does y equal? It also equals 0. So if 0 miles are traveled, that means 0 fuel is used. Duh. Write an equation. So this is m, and this is b. Y equals 5.2, which x plus 0, but you don't really need to write plus 0. So y equals 5.2x. The slope represents, so the y over the x. The y is fuel, so it's fuel per mile. So gallons of fuel per mile is my what my slope represents. And the y-intercept is 0 fuel used after 0 miles. So no fuel if you don't travel any miles. All right, let's look at number 4. Robert pays for his family to go bowling. He first rents shoes for everyone, and then he pays a certain amount per game that his family plays, as shown in the graph. So here we have the number of games shown on the bottom. That's the x, and the y is the total cost. What is the slope? Well, let's figure out the rise over run. Looks like this is a good point to start, and then this is a good point because that's not good, that's not good. So we rise, it looks like we rise 3 and we run 2, but that's not true. We go from 12 to 21 because each thing is worth 3. So 12 to 21, that is a change of 9. So we rise 9 and we run 2, and it looks like it is 2 because we go from 0 to 2. So rise over run is 9 over 2. You may have also written 8. I'm not going to write the word. Why would I write or? Or 4.5. In the case of, like, because this is money, it's the total cost, that would be $4.50. Would be each one, which would be the slope, $4.50 is the total cost per games. What is the y-intercept? It is this right here. It is the number 12. Write an equation. Well, y equals 9 over 2x plus 12. Or you could have written y equals 4.5x plus 12. The slope represents the y over the x, so it's the cost per game. Looks like the cost per game is 4.5, so it's 4.5 or $4.50 per game. The y-intercept represents, well, he paid $12 initially. Why did he pay $12 again? It's because he rents shoes. It's 12, which is the shoe rental price. Rental price, or cost, not price. It's the shoe rental cost. All right, so that is our lesson on writing equations from tables, graphs. Go ahead and try some problems on your own.